From front of house to center stage, for over 25 years, Earthworks microphones have sculpted the sounds of your favorite concerts, venues, and performances. Earthworks Audio is a sponsor of the Tech Arts Podcast. We are so happy to have them on board and excited to promote the new Earthworks SR117 vocal mic and capsules. To find out more about Earthworks Audio or to get your hands on this mic, go to earthworksaudio.com. That's earthworksaudio.com. Capturing emotion with sound. earthworksaudio.com. From sold-out stadiums to intimate live performance venues, sound engineers agree on one thing for the best digital mixing consoles for live sound. The only name that matters is Digico. As the recognized worldwide standard for live audio mixing, Digico consoles are renowned for their industry-leading sound quality and ease of use. Whether your application is in a church, broadcast, theater, corporate, sports, or installed sound, Digico offers compact and affordable products. From the S21 all the way up to the pioneering power of the Quantum 852, Digico delivers the workflow, the feature set, and the absolute reliability that the world's biggest tours and programs have come to rely upon. If you're looking for a sound console, look to Digico for your answer. For more information on Digico, go to digico.biz. That's digico.biz. With Sermon Shots church-specific AI, sermon highlights don't go unnoticed. Easily transform your sermons into 10-plus bite-sized clips, ready for social media. It doesn't stop there. Refine each clip by adding or removing video sections, give them your unique touch with colors, fonts, design edits, and create the goosebump moment with background music. Elevate your message and reach hearts locally and globally. Start today by going to sermonshots.com. This episode of the Tech Arts Podcast is brought to you by AIforChurchLeaders.com. Harness the power of AI for ministry at AIforChurchLeaders.com.
This is the Tech Arts Podcast, where we talk about tech, leadership, and all things that concern church audio, video, and lighting.
Welcome to the Tech Arts Podcast and the Earthworks Audio Studios. My name is DL. So glad to have you joining us today. I'm so excited to tell you that we are extending the $700 giveaway. That's right, your church being able to pick up to $700 worth of gear that Digital Great Commission Ministries sends you for free has been extended. This past month, we helped several churches, and in the spirit of Christmas, we could not shut this down in December, so we're extending it. Here's how it works. You go to techartspodcast.com, register your church for the giveaway, and then if your church is chosen, DGCM pays for all the gear you select up to $700 worth of value, and we ship it to you for absolutely free. Our core mission is to help as many churches as we possibly can, and this giveaway aligns with that. Don't miss out. Go to techartspodcast.com and register your church today. Are you ready for this podcast? In this episode, we are talking about AI. That's right. We dive into the world of artificial intelligence with Kenny Jahng, answering questions like, what is AI? How do you use AI? Can AI get you in trouble? Yeah, we're going to talk about some of those ethical AI questions. Oh, we also have a church tech tip that will change how you handle your social media. Hint, they also use AI. It's a good episode and you don't want to miss a second of it. But right now, let's hear from Paragon 360 and the Paragon Angle.
At the end of the day, I hope the client is buying experience and track record. The way I see it, I'm not paying the cardiologist for the 30 minutes it takes to change the heart valve, right? I'm paying them for a portion of their 36 years of experience and the track record of getting it right the first time, because I can't afford a miss. Welcome to the Paragon Angle. Today, we're going to try and answer the question, do multiple bids actually lead to a better project? Wait for it. No. It's a shell game that rarely produces the quality product that everyone desires in the end. Typically, the client, architect, contractors all end up pointing fingers at each other while the client is left holding the bag on a project that never quite lived up to expectations. This can get very expensive for the client. Now, I get it. It's a necessary step for many of our church clients. We see it often because church bylaws that maybe haven't been updated require multiple bids. And we do respect leadership's fiduciary responsibility, right? The 3-bid deal can work really well when we're purchasing commodities like cleaning or office supplies, but there are inherent issues with this approach when purchasing high-quality, integrated worship technologies. It's not like it was 25 years ago, when all you needed was a mic, some speakers, a projector, throw some words on the screen. Today, more than ever, congregations rely on technology as an integral part of the ministry. Just consider how essential streaming services have become to churches. Done right, it's literally the front door for millennials and Gen Z. There's a saying among the better AVL integrators that they want to sell the church their last sound system. That's because, strange as it seems, many churches buy 2 to 3 sound systems before they finally end up with one that works well enough to meet their needs. This happens because their first inclination was to go with the low bid. But if that system isn't designed and integrated correctly, they end up with the wrong equipment in the wrong spot and they have to start all over. Where is the stewardship in that? Unfortunately, at Paragon, we see it every week. It's ironic that the thing designed to protect the church can often do the most damage. My recommendation is to hire the right company regardless. Here are a few things to consider. Make sure you're dealing with a reputable firm that's not going to take advantage of you. In today's environment, it's easy to study a firm's reputation. The good ones are going to have pages of references, testimonial videos, and a track record of long-standing relationships. If they don't, they're probably not the right company. The most important thing is to find a firm that you can trust. Secondly, you need to consider their design expertise. There are just not a lot of firms out there doing their own design work, and that can get you into some serious trouble. Many of the firms out there, even some of the larger ones, are using copy and paste package designs or having their manufacturers do the design work for them or designing around select equipment that they happen to sell. Integrated design makes such a difference in the end product. I always say it's easier to get it wrong than it is to get it right. And there's an old saying out there, if you think design work is expensive, you should see the cost of free design. Third, make sure whoever you're dealing with is providing proposals that are inclusive. The strategy for vendors doing bid work is to price it low, cutting everything out of it that actually adds value. Then there's the blame game. Blame the designer, blame the architect, blame the contractor, the building, the drawings, whatever else they can find. They have a whole book of excuses prepared. That's the game. They stand behind the "you didn't pay for that" scenario. That's when the change orders fly, and guess what? Those change orders are built with a margin 3 times that of the initial bid. Have you seen the picture of the 2 boats? The small one is named Original Contract, but the yacht behind it is named Change Order. Several clients bought that guy a really nice boat. That's meant to be a joke, but sadly, it's completely accurate. That's the bid game, and the client never wins. However, this whole charade is based on more than a bit of willful ignorance, really on both sides of the table, because the integrator bids the job at something near cost with zero value with the intention of recovering more revenue through change orders. And the client feels like they've checked the stewardship box by obtaining the lowest bid. Find an integrator who has a good reputation, does high-quality design work, and hire them. Pay them well to do what they do, and they will take care of you. You want your integrator making money so they can be there to take care of you in the future. If you do this, you will probably end up with the right system for the space. You won't have to sit down and have that painful conversation with leadership and donors later. Hey guys, sorry, but we have to do all this again. Good news is we saved 8% on the initial bid. At the end of the day, I hope the client is buying experience and track record. The way I see it, I'm not paying the cardiologist for the 30 minutes it takes to change the heart valve, right? I'm paying them for a portion of their 36 years of experience and the track record of getting it right the first time, because I can't afford a miss. I can assure you this, churches can't afford to swing and a miss either, especially today. Funding is getting harder and harder to come by. They need to be partnering with someone who has a track record of getting it right the first time. For more information on Paragon, check out paragon360.com. I hope this was helpful, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Paragon Angle.
I want to take a moment and thank Sermon Shots, AIforChurchLeaders.com, Digico, Paragon 360, and Earthworks Audio for sponsoring today's episode. Without our sponsors, we would not exist. Today's church tech tip is Sermon Shots. We are so proud to have them as a sponsor of the Tech Arts podcast. We featured them as a tech tip about a year ago, but so much has changed since then. Coming on to talk to us about Sermon Shots is Corey Alderin. Corey, welcome to the Tech Arts podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, for those who don't know anything about Sermon Shots, tell us who you are and what Sermon Shots does.
Yeah, so Sermon Shots takes a sermon and turns it into different pieces of content. So how can we utilize the sermon more? Primarily, what we're known for is making sermon clips. So making the 30, 60-second clips that are good, that are popular on Instagram, Facebook Reels, TikTok, that sort of thing. That is what that is what most people know us about.
I feel like I see those Instagram clips and TikTok clips. I feel like I see more of that than I actually do the actual church service. I feel like that's penetrating out into the, especially the younger generation, a little bit more than even the church services. So I think this is a very important tool when it comes to church and reaching, new visitors or the lost for Jesus. So can you jump in and give us a little bit of a demo?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess from the last time that we were on the podcast, there's probably 3 really big updates, and I'll go through the 3 and point them out as we go through making a clip. The way it starts, no matter what you're making, is you upload your sermon. So your sermon is the starting point for all the content. And what you do is you upload either from your computer, from YouTube, simply by putting in the YouTube link, or you can even upload from live stream. So if you're already live streaming to Facebook, YouTube, all that, you can do that from here as well. So as soon as it's done live streaming, it's uploaded straight into your account, ready to go.
That's pretty cool. So you're telling me that I just attach it like an RTMP or something along those lines, and as soon as my service is done, it's already on your platform?
Correct. Huge time saver.
Wow. All those media, marketing, all those folks out there just went, oh my, we just have a game changer here.
Yes. You log in right after sermon or right after service is done, and you can start downloading and making all your stuff right away.
That's awesome.
You can also use a previous one. So that's what I'll do here as my example. You just click on one of your previous ones, and from here is where all your content lives for that sermon. So what we'll mostly go over here is making a sermon clip, but just briefly, I'll show you. This is one of the things that's been updated since we last talked, and it will make a discussion guide for you. So it's a starter. It's a discussion guide starter. So it's got a title, a sermon summary, intro prayer, icebreaker, verses, questions, life application, and an ending prayer. And all of this is there for you to be able to copy and paste to maybe your format that you want. You just download it from here. And the same thing with all the other pieces of content we have here. So the full transcription you can download. We convert the sermon into a blog style. If you want to put it on your website somewhere, you can see it's written out as a blog, SEO, all that's put into this.
So if you're a small church, you are knocking out a lot of the work that they have to do for the website, for the transcription. That is so cool. I mean, and on these, let me ask you this. I know I want to talk to you a little bit down the road about how people sign up, but are these different layers of features, or do they all come with the standard sermon shots?
Yeah, the there's two main plans. One plan that is primarily for sermon clips. You can get the sermon clips, the transcription, and the audio. And then for just a little bit more, the next plan up includes the other stuff: discussion guide, blog, summaries. And I can show you the pricing afterwards if you want to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll look at that afterwards. I just got excited there and was like, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff. Like,
Yes.
This is so much more than what I saw last time. Sorry, I jumped ahead of myself and got excited. All right, here we go. Back to the demo.
Yeah. So audio, if you want to download just the audio and use it, podcast, put it on your website, for the people that don't watch, but just listen. And then some summaries. So people use these in a lot of different places: social media, YouTube, newsletters, things like that. But we've got a short one, a longer one that's made specifically for newsletter, and then YouTube. And all of these, as I said, you just simply download them and they're yours. But going back to what I said earlier, sermon clips really is probably the primary thing that we're known for. And it's the feature that we have lots of capabilities to be able to do. You can make it really simple, you can make a clip in just a few minutes. You can edit it the way you want as well. And I'll just go through that and point out some of the newest features that we have as well. So when you go to create a new clip, from here, you choose the design style that you want. So there's well over 1,000 different designs that you can choose from, all kinds of different things. And I will not scroll through all of them to save time.
Only 1,000, Corey?
Correct. Yep. Lots of different designs. So really just there's probably something there for just about any church. And all you do is you select the one that you want. And it's a starting point. And so you have the ability to change this stuff. I'll show you in the last step. The next step is where you cut it down to the 30, 60-second moments that you want. And this is really where huge time savings is. There's two primary ways that you can do this. When you upload, it transcribes the whole thing. So you can see the whole thing is transcribed here. You can search for a word that the pastor said. Say you remember a moment. All you have to do is type in the moment that they said. I would imagine Bible's probably. Oh, there you go. So let's say you remember that, and you can just scroll through, kind of like a Word document, to find the part in that sermon that you remembered and say, I've got it. I found the spot. So all you have to do is hit the plus button to the sentences that you want. And that's what builds the clip. And so say you've built it from here, hit the plus button, and you can see down here, I've selected 11 seconds. So you can imagine building a 30, 60-second clip from this. The other way of doing this, which is a new feature since we last talked, is the AI suggested clips. And what it does is it determines what are 10 really good, potentially viral moments from your sermon. And you can see here that there's 10 of them listed here. And all you do is you just click on them and it selects it for you. And so you can play this, say, I want to listen to this, or say, you want to listen to this one. And you can go through, watch them all, pick ones that you want. And once you've picked what you want from here, all you have to do is hit next. And this is where it puts all of that together. So that template we chose in step 2, and then that, I think, about 30-second clip that we chose, it's cutting that down and then putting it together, and we'll be able to preview it right here in typically 30 seconds or less. There we go. And then what we can do is play.
To make concessions with what God asks us to
so
do.
You'll see from here, because I won't play the whole thing, but you'll see from here that he goes off the screen, right? A very typical thing for a pastor to do. This vertical space is a hard place to keep a pastor, and sometimes even for a camera person to track with them.
And
right?
I see it all the time when I watch these clips. I see them just leaving the screen all the time, and it's so annoying.
Yeah, because the face is a big important thing, right? Of like what these clips and listening, and so what we have here is AI Camera Crew, and all you have to do is simply click the button, and what it starts to do is process that, and it takes about the length of the clip to start processing. And what it will do is it allows you basically just to automatically track, and we'll see this in just a little bit. And while this is going, you can work on the other things that I'll just briefly mention. You can change all the colors. You see as I highlight over these color palettes, it's highlighting over here. If you want to change something, like you don't like the yellow, for example, you just change it, and just like that, it's changed. The fonts can be changed. It adds the logo automatically for you. You can see down here, but that can be resized or moved or even removed if you don't want it. Music is a really nice feature to be able to add. And I'll come back to music, and I'll just play this real quick with AI Camera Crew enabled.
How often are we trading the hope
Look
of
at that.
eternity for the comforts of today? How often are
Watch,
we
this is
willing
where
to
you
make
walked off the
concessions
screen.
with what God asks us to do
Oh my.
because it makes us feel good now,
That
and
is
we
so
trade
cool.
away?
Huge for exactly what you're saying. It's annoying when the pastor goes off the screen on your vertical space, and so this will help keep them. And it looks like actual camera person, right? So,
Yeah, it did. You just flip a button, and that's the AI portion of Sermon Shots that's, kind of going through and figuring out where the face is at and keeping them centered.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Wow.
And then, I was going to finish up with the music. This is a popular feature as well, as you can just add music in the background. And so say that you want a sort of like slow piano effect added to it. You can play that as a little extra effect in the background as well.
Yeah, just add some mood
How
to it.
often are we willing to
Yep,
make concessions
exactly.
with what God asks us
And then
to do? Because it makes
you can preview what it looks like on these platforms before you download. You just click on these, and it'll show you exactly what it looks like on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. That way you don't have, words kind of overlapping with this stuff. You can make sure everything's fitting in there the way that you want to. And then you can add a few other things, resize, add some edit the captions, add some text, that sort of stuff. And as soon as you like it, you hit download, and that's it. It's yours.
It's all done.
Done. So you can imagine being able to, after you've done this one or two times, you can make a clip in like 5 minutes, pretty simply.
Well, that looks amazing. I really think every church in America should be using this. Can you tell us how people can sign up? And you mentioned some pricing differences earlier in the demo. Kind of help us with that a little bit.
Yeah, let me show you what the pricing would look like. Just this is probably the easiest way. The Plus plan, which is the one that has, I was telling you, it has the unlimited clips. That's the thing that we spent the most time. The transcription and the audio for the podcast is $39 a month if you pay yearly, $49 if you pay monthly. And then the Silver plan is the plan that has all those other things that we were talking about as well. So for a little bit more, you can have all those as well.
If you want to sign up for Sermon Shots, go to sermonshots.com. That's sermonshots.com. Corey, this whole AI discussion really intrigues me. And coming up in just a few minutes, we have Kenny Jahng from churchtechtoday.com. He is going to chat with us about AI. Would you mind staying on and being part of that discussion?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. In just a few minutes, we're going to be talking about AI and how it's changing the world of tech. Plus, we'll talk about how you should embrace it, or should you be worried about it. We will also talk some uses for it, like sermonshots.com and how that works with AI. We'll talk about some other uses. It all starts right after these messages from our sponsors. Hang on. From sold-out stadiums to intimate live performance venues, sound engineers agree on one thing for the best digital mixing consoles for live sound. The only name that matters is Digico. As the recognized worldwide standard for live audio mixing, Digico consoles are renowned for their industry-leading sound quality and ease of use. Whether your application is in a church, broadcast, theater, corporate, sports, or installed sound, Digico offers compact and affordable products. From the S21 all the way up to the pioneering power of the Quantum 852, Digico delivers the workflow, the feature set, and the absolute reliability that the world's biggest tours and programs have come to rely upon. If you're looking for a sound console, look to Digico for your answer. For more information on Digico, go to digico.biz. That's digico.biz.
What's MXU? We get asked that all the time. MXU is the platform for churches to recruit, train, and retain their volunteer teams. It starts with our vast content library with discipline-specific training videos. You can assign videos to team members, upload your own videos, and you can even organize them into courses for a more guided approach. You can keep track of a volunteer's watch progress and check in when they might be falling behind. And with groups, you can keep track of multiple teams and assign roles to specific users to give them the ability to manage your volunteer team. It doesn't matter if you're a team of 5 or 50, MXU will help you care for and stay on top of training for each volunteer. This is MXU, used to help churches recruit, train, and retain their volunteer teams. Join the community and start using MXU for free today.
With Sermon Shot's church-specific AI, sermon highlights don't go unnoticed. Easily transform your sermons into 10-plus bite-sized clips, ready for social media. It doesn't stop there. Refine each clip by adding or removing video sections, give them your unique touch with colors, fonts, design edits, and create the goosebump moment with background music. Elevate your message and reach hearts locally and globally. Start today by going to sermonshots.com. From front of house to center stage, for over 25 years, Earthworks microphones have sculpted the sounds of your favorite concerts, venues, and performances. Earthworks Audio is a sponsor of the Tech Arts Podcast. We are so happy to have them on board and excited to promote the new Earthworks SR117 vocal mic and capsules. To find out more about Earthworks Audio or to get your hands on this mic, go to earthworksaudio.com. That's earthworksaudio.com. Capturing emotion with sound. earthworksaudio.com. Our main sponsor is Digital Great Commission Ministries. Whether you need help building a team, finding the right gear, or just better understanding the church tech world, DGCM is here for you. Because they are a 501c3 donor-sponsored organization, they come to your church for free and do an assessment of your tech, visitor engagement, and online streaming. Plus, we give away free gear. Be sure to go to audiovideolighting.com and register your email today. This will sign you up for all of the free giveaways and give you first access to everything we offer for free. If you want free resources, training, or consulting, contact Digital Great Commission Ministries today by going to audiovideolighting.com. That's audiovideolighting.com. This episode of the Tech Arts Podcast is brought to you by AI for churchleaders.com. Harness the power of AI for ministry at aiforchurchleaders.com. Welcome back to the Tech Arts Podcast. Joining us today is the editor-in-chief of churchtechtoday.com. He's also the founder of aiforchurchleaders.com and churchgrowthworkshops.com. He's served as church online pastor for one of Outreach Magazine's top 100 fastest growing churches in America. He is also a certified story brand guide and CEO of Big Click Syndicate, a strategic marketing advisory firm helping Christian leaders build digital engagement engines that work. He has earned a Master's of Divinity at Princeton Theological Seminary, at Columbia Business School, and a BA at Duke University. So in simple terms, he's smarter than me. Please welcome to the Tech Arts Podcast, Kenny Jahng. Hey, Kenny.
Hey, good to be with you guys.
It's good to have you on the podcast today. Hey, we just did a church tech tip with Corey from Sermon Shots, and I asked him to hang out with us for this discussion. Corey, welcome back.
Thanks.
All right, Kenny, I got to jump right into this. What the heck is AI?
It's better than what the heck is Al. Some people think it's Al if you look at it. And so AI, it stands for artificial intelligence. And basically, it's all around us today. It's a type of technology that allows computers, right, to perform tasks that are normally require large amounts of human intelligence, like this just brute force brainiac stuff. So things like learning, problem solving, understanding language. It just is something that is at our disposal right now. And this latest version, probably the reason why we're talking about AI today in popular culture is there's a flavor of AI called generative AI. And it just means that this AI systems, they're being trained to mimic the way that we actually talk to each other. And it's able to create new things, new works of content, of art, of audio, visual stuff. So we are able to create new things with AI. And so it's just been an amazing innovation front to watch and experience. And we're here. I think it's going to be part of everybody's lives that's listening in today.
Well, when we did the Sermon Shots demo with Corey and he mentioned some of the new AI tools, for me, it just feels like a new label. Like, I mean, I know Google's been out there and they've, in my opinion, been doing the descriptive of artificial intelligence for a while. But I mean, is it a new label? I mean, is it just a marketing thing, or is this something that's real? Is it here? Is like artificial intelligence by computers happening?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely real. And I don't think this new flavor, generative AI, it's not just a new label. It actually represents a leapfrog, a significant advancement in the broader AI technology. It goes beyond what we call traditional machine learning. So the things that you can do with it today are being done by every normal day people. You no longer need some nerdy computer science degree. You don't need to work in a lab. You don't need to actually be a scientist. You don't need to actually have this upper level knowledge. It's accessible to anybody that understands just how to talk to another human being. And largely because it has this natural language processing component to it that translates what we are trying to say to the machine. It goes off and does its brainiac stuff and then comes back and translates it back to something that we understand. So that translation part into humanese is just the part that's revolutionary and that's changing the whole ball game with computing.
Well, Corey, how did you bring it into your company? Like, I mean, is AI is like this thing that I can't put my hands on? Like, I mean, how do you get it involved into Sermon Shots specifically to where it works for you? I mean, is it like coding or what? I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think I can answer that question along with a different perspective of the question you asked Kenny, and a different answer perspective. So from the business side on Sermon Shots, it's and I can tell you when we first started a couple of years ago, I knew this component was going to be very important. It's helping the user figure out what the good parts of their sermon are, right? And 2-3 years ago, when we were thinking about this, that was going to require a huge number of an investment and time, because I knew how it was going to have to happen. I was going to have to create a model. I was going to have to run hundreds of thousands of hours of sermons into it and all this stuff. That's what it would take. It would have been multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that thing. That was not possible for me at that point. And so we didn't do that. But when this AI capability started coming out for everybody to use, including me as a business owner and a developer, we were able to tap into what OpenAI and Claude and all of these models are doing and just piggyback off of what they're doing. And I was able to do what was going to take me hundreds of thousands of dollars and who knows, a year or longer to do all this with my opportunity. And we were able to do it within a few months. And basically, I'll say not as much of an investment, I guess, in the amount of money. And so we took what was going to be almost not possible to possible within a few months. So
That's pretty cool. I mean, you're basically saying you were going to spend tons of money, and with this technology, it allowed you to speed things up and then really help the consumer. But my familiarity with AI is ChatGPT, and kind of typing things in and just kind of having fun with what it types back. I've used it for some social media and stuff like that. But there's a movie that I watched when I was much younger called Terminator. And so I talked to a lot of people, and, they make this jump that AI is the end of the world, that the Terminator is coming and it's going to take over the world. Like, is that something we should be worried about? Is it dangerous? I mean, are we just over the top with this thing?
Absolutely. It's coming, and they're going to take over on Thursday at 2:30. You want me to send the calendar invite? I can send you the calendar invite for it.
Yeah, send me the calendar invite that was automatically generated by your AI.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're seeing the fear narrative that we've seen in Hollywood and human storytelling for several decades now, right? And so that's what we have in our own library of culture is Skynet, Terminator, things that are coming after. It's man versus machine. After all, in Hollywood, in storybooks, that's what makes for a good story, right? This major conflict. And like I say, I think the last decade has been occupied by social media and has generated FOMO. This next decade is being occupied by artificial intelligence. And the new word of the day is FOLO, which is fear of looming obsolescence. Fear of looming obsolescence. Like they're coming to get us. And I think this is one of the things where practitioners like Corey and myself are trying to basically heed the call to educate the masses, to really bring awareness and education to the space to show, man, this actually isn't that narrative. It's a choose your own adventure. If you want to go down that narrative, then your behavior is going to go one way. It's going to be fear-based. If you go the other direction and choose the other pathway that's available in front of you, then I think you're going to see potential for a lot of human flourishing at the end of the day.
Corey, let me ask you this, and then Kenny, I'd love to hear you answer this question too, but how do you harness it? How do you limit it? How do you control it? How do you make sure with your product that it doesn't run off the rails, Corey? I mean, what guardrails are you putting in there to make sure it doesn't become Terminator?
Well, I can say my use case probably isn't going to get it to the place where it's going to go do some crazy things.
You're not Skynet.
I'm helping. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's learning something from me. I don't know, but I think there's very specific use cases where it's just a huge time saver, and it can't really go outside of that in what I'm using it for. I'm sure there are many ways that we can go the fear-based route that Kenny's talking about, many leaps that get us there. But in my use case of what I'm using it for, not just in the way that users can use it, but ways I'm using it in my business as well, of just talking to it like it's a person, and understanding that the answer I'm not just taking as I know it's 100% correct, or not even question answer, but just giving me suggestions on ways of doing things. I'm still using my brain to take what they're saying. I'm utilizing it as a helpful person that is giving me advice, and I will take it if I want it, leave it if I don't. So there's it going further than that. There's a huge leap to go into the Terminator, at least the way I see it.
Yeah. So you're using it as a tool and as something that's giving you advice and helping to move your company in a certain direction. But Kenny, I know everybody jumps there. Like, how do we harness this, or should we harness it? Should we just let it go? Should we just let it be?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one thing that we have to spur on today is to have conversations with your teams, because there's a lot of questions, and they are valid questions. This new technology, the number one thing that people stumble upon is the obstacle of ethics, right? And we just did a landmark study, churchtechtoday.com and Exponential AI Next just put out a state of AI in the church report for 2024. And we found that over a quarter of leaders say that ethics is the number one obstacle for implementing AI in their own organization. And yet 73% of church leaders have not yet led a discussion about AI with their teams, right? And so what do you actually talk about? I mean, I think you can start anywhere, but we have this like little starter kit that we say there's 4 questions that you start to ask your teams and really figure out where you fall on it. One is what do you put in it is important. So that's issues of privacy, security, about all your data. When do you use it? So is it relegated to all ministry aspects, or is it just for the mundane administrative back office type of activities, or is it available to everybody? Where do you disclose it? So transparency, attribution, that's very important in today's day and age. I mean, you're not disclosing that you do a Google search every time you write something, but that's the norm, that people understand that. So until it's the norm that we are all using AI tools on a daily basis, I think you need to figure out where you actually disclose it. It doesn't need to be everywhere. And the last question is the what, when, where, and how. How are you going to use it? I think that's in terms of the context of your question is we want to make sure that there's fact checking, that there's not an over reliance. You don't want bias to come in and be introduced without you understanding that it's actually happening. And so how do you control it? How do you make sure it's, head on being used the way you intend to do it so you don't have unintended consequences? You got to say, what do you put into it? When do you use it? Where do you disclose it? How do you actually use it? I think those are the 4 first questions that will start to answer, that problem obstacle that you've identified.
So, Kenny, you live and breathe AI. Tell me some use cases where you've used it in a way that's really helped either a church or your business or even your speaking kind of go to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, where are we not using it? I'm using it all day, every day. It's like I don't Google things first. I actually, as of this recording, Perplexity.ai is my favorite tool to go to. It incorporates live Google or data, web searches along with generative AI responses. And so I'm actually asking Perplexity before I ask Google for most things. So you're going to see a lot of basic daily behavior change. But beyond that, I think in the church world, again, that State of AI in the Church survey, we asked pastors, how are you actually using this? All in your staff meetings and things like that, how are you using it? So the top use cases that they're actually using it right now, not in the future. Number 1 is communications. So stuff that Sermon Shots does, right? Repurposing your sermons to different formats, helping you with emails, helping you with advertising if you do ads, helping you with your bulletin inserts, helping with all communications. Second one was analyzing data, really helping you with taking unstructured data and creating order out of it. Administrative work is for sure, event and project planning, sermon prep was on the list. Of the people who actually prepare sermons that responded to the survey, 43% have said they already started using some sort of AI tools in their sermon prep process. You're almost at half of the pastors who are writing sermons are starting to use it. Member engagement, outreach, evangelism, discipleship pathways. So it's almost like you need to ask the converse. Where are you not using AI today? Where is it not applicable?
Yeah, I agree with you. I even started seeing some things that I think would help technicians that are coordinating volunteers and things of that nature. If you look at some of these auto programming, Instagram, social media stuff, they tell you, hey, here's the best time to send your post. Here's the best time. And so they're using some AI tools to help you program your marketing. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, when's the best time to have a volunteer meeting? And using AI to kind of understand your team and how they work and what time to meet. We all say, oh, well, 6:00 on a Friday, but is that the best time? Can AI help you determine when your volunteers should be meeting and how that should happen? I think there's some really cool uses where it could be applied. But Corey, tell me like some things you're looking for in the future that you think AI is going to help you with.
So me personally, I can tell you one thing before I go to the future. One thing that I could expand on too on some like how it's been helpful for me is a lot of the like conversations that I can have with it too. So it's like, well, I can use kind of Kenny's example of Googling something, right? Like when you Google something, find an answer, it spits out some things. And I don't know, sometimes if I'm doing something complex, it's like, okay, that kind of answered it, but I wish it like, that's not quite my fitting. That's not exactly how I asked it. Or, okay, but all of that, like I can have that conversation. And so just one example, recently I'm looking to adapt some of the messaging I'm using on a landing page that I had, for example, and testing it out. And I asked it to give me some examples, or I actually even gave it some of my examples as well of what I had. And it said, well, what about this? And it spurred an idea in my head. I was like, oh, that's great. And so then I typed in like, okay, I like that one, but can we combine it with this one? Or like, what was the other, like, oh, but I don't like this word. And so I had a conversation about probably 25 back and forths of getting a little bit closer to what I wanted. And I finally got it. And that previously might have been 5 emails back and forth over 3 days with somebody that I hired or on my team or something like that. So I think that thinking about how it's not just a answer or a question and answer back, it's like it really is a multiple conversation that you can get to where you want to go. I don't know if that exactly answered what you were asking, but
No, it does, but you're kind of blowing my mind because you keep talking about talking to it. And up to this point, I'm kind of old school. I'm like typing and getting my responses from ChatGPT or whatever it is. You're actually talking to a computer.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the most popular, if you're using ChatGPT, I'll just jump in. You need to download the ChatGPT app. And because you can actually talk to the ChatGPT app on your phone, just like Siri. The only difference is it comes back with an intelligent answer, not like Siri, right? And you can actually have a conversation. And the voice is actually quite soothing. And so it sounds like you're actually having a conversation with a friend. But I think Corey's saying you could do it using typing. But I think the future, and maybe that's one of the things, Corey, that both of you and I are going to wish for in the future, is that all of these interfaces, you're not going to need a keyboard. You're just going to be able to talk to somebody, give it commands, have a conversation back and forth. That reality is here. Even Perplexity, I use voice most times because when I'm Googling on Perplexity, Google's the verb there. When I'm Googling on Perplexity, it's the same experience that Corey has. You get something back, and it's not exactly what you want, but you want to give it context, and then you have it reframe the answer based on your context.
Well, I want to circle back to the ethics piece, Kenny, that you were talking about, because I think a big deal. Most everybody's seen the law that Tennessee passed to help protect artists in terms of AI and their music being kind of stolen. But talk a little bit about ethics and come at it from the viewpoint of, how does this concern the low-level volunteer or tech in the organization? From a leadership perspective, I think leaders can grasp it right away. But hey, I'm just a tech at the church. I mean, how does AI affect me from an ethical standpoint in how I'm communicating and what I'm doing? Talk a little bit about that. That's you intrigued me a little bit there.
Yeah, I would say for the most part, volunteer roles are not going to come across ethical issues as much as key executive leaders in an organization, because usually volunteer roles are task oriented and you really don't have that many blurred boundaries, especially if you're in the AV tech side of the house, right? And so I think there's a lot of newfangled things that are going to come down. One of the cool features that Sermon Shots released recently, I think it's live, Corey, is camera tracking. And so one of the big problems that when we're editing social media videos is that the pastor keeps on walking all around. And so if you're creating a vertical video, you actually have to move your framing of the pastor as they go through. So it's not like as easy as push a button and just, resize the video, because you actually have to follow the subject around on stage. AI now is being able to do that. It's being integrated into products like Sermon Shots, but you're having that face tracking already on a lot of cameras, right? There's You're seeing that even on my my actual webcam has face tracking, and so if I move to the left, it will actually follow me. You're seeing that on live stream cameras and recording outputs, etc. So there are things that are just going to make things much easier and better. The other thing I would say, the other side note is for church leaders, AI feels like this foreign thing that we actually have to take our time to evaluate before integrating, etc. Yet all your volunteers work in the secular world for companies that are going 6,000 miles ahead with AI. They cannot get AI into their workflows fast enough. I've been to, I think, 5 non-church related conferences this year, like business industry conferences. And I would say the lowest number of workshops probably was like 30 or 40%. 40% or more of the workshops had some AI component in it this year, right? That's what all people are talking about. They're trying to figure out, how do we take advantage of AI? And so your people in your congregation are in organizations and companies that are already being exposed to AI at a level much higher than you and your staff are. I think you have to sit on that for a second to understand what that means. Like, we're so hesitant, we're fearful, we're worried if our people can't adopt it, et cetera. And yet they're in their daily lives, right? They're only with you 1 day a week. 5 days a week, they're in the office being asked to use AI to the max. And so it's a very different dynamic inside and outside of the office in the church.
Yeah, I believe churches a lot of times are behind the curve.
Yeah.
When it comes to newer technology, new things that are out there. And just in the tech world, churches were still using projection when LED was, coming out and really at the forefront of things. But when we kicked off this segment, Kenny, you I think the word you used was generative AI.
Yes.
Talk a little bit more about that, because you kind of recapped it pretty quick. So kind of help the audience understand what that is. And it sounds like that's the next level. So when we talk about churches kind of getting ahead of the game, let's understand that and know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, generative, that word is just talking about the ability for the technology to generate new original content, rather than, if we want to call legacy or old school AI that's been around for decades. That sweet spot, for the most part, has been analyzing and processing existing data. When you think of like IBM Watson and the chess machine, right? It's the idea that this computer AI can make 50,000 permutations of, what chess moves would be, what are the combinations of the future chess moves? It's like war games, right? You're trying to figure out, versus a human can only do a certain limited number of chess moves in our brain at a per minute or per second, whatever. That's the old AI, analyzing, processing existing data. But the generative part refers to the new model's capabilities to create these novel outputs. Rather than just recognizing patterns and making predictions, you're now having these computers trained on large data sets of existing content. So they're consuming, at some point, it's going to be every web page that's on the web, every book under the sun, all the works of art, music, video, etc. And so they're training on these large data sets of existing content, and they're going to learn the underlying patterns and structures and statistical properties of the data. That's what that brainiac old school AI stuff is doing. But the generative part means when it's prompted, when you and I are talking to it, they can then use what they've learned in representations of the big data, synthesize it down to create new content that mimics the characteristics of something that you would create as an original work of art. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. And what's really cool about it is, let me ask you this first. Before I say what's cool, what I was going to talk about is how I think how churches could utilize this to understand where their audience is and where they're going and how they're going. But before I kind of talk about that, is anybody out there using generative AI?
Yeah, I mean, ChatGPT is generative AI. Claude is generative AI. Jasper is generative AI. any of these AI tools that have come out recently where you're able to create new things is using this newfangled flavor of AI.
So here's my question. I'm a church. It sounds like I could use AI, and this is what I was about to talk about just a second ago. It sounds like I could use AI to figure out like where my audience is going to be, where I need to reach my audience. Very similar, I think, to how Facebook kind of uses, maybe it's AI, maybe it's not, but Facebook uses algorithms to figure out, where audiences are going to be and where groups are going to be. It feels like churches could utilize this at a whole new level for reaching visitors.
Yeah, I mean, it's more than just that. But yes, that's one of those things that if you took, I don't know, ACS Technologies has a product called Mission Insights, which basically gives you demographic reporting of who lives in your community. And then you can start to look at the data and analyze it, right? You could even just analyze your own data from your church management software or your giving data. Like we had an exercise with the church recently where we asked it to analyze the average giving for every single person in the church over the last year or two, I think it was 2 years, and then identify anyone for whose giving has dropped more than, I think it was 40%. So in the last quarter, has your behavior of giving dropped more than 40% of what you did on average in the last 2 years? Why does that happen, David? Right? Either your sermon pissed you off, right? On a given weekend, you stopped giving, or there's a ministry opportunity that might be there, right? So it might be job loss. It might be you're fighting with your spouse. There might be some health issues that's disrupting everything. There's something there. And so could you do all this manually? Absolutely. Can you actually use we used GPT, which is the underlying technology under ChatGPT, in a Google spreadsheet to identify that list of people. I think it came out with like 7 people. And so what do you do? Now you can be surgical and strategic as a leader. Look up, do those 7 people, do they belong to a small group? Are they on the volunteer team? Meaning, do they actually have some other one-on-one relationship with a team leader, small group leader, or something, right? So then you can use them to reach out and just make sure that they're okay, how they're doing. Is it a time to check in to see, how are they doing? And so there's all these things that the church leader now has the ability to do. I think all our tools are going to start to integrate it more and more. And it's just going to become easier over the next year, 2 year, 3 years and beyond.
You are giving me some pause. My brain is really opening up. I think you're also opening up everybody else's brain in terms of how it can be used. Data analytics. I wasn't even thinking. I was thinking like, something I can touch and feel, but just taking data and analyzing it at a much faster and quicker pace so that you can figure out, giving and groups and all the things that you just mentioned.
Imagine if you did a survey. Some churches do annual surveys of their people, right? Imagine if you started doing that and you asked some questions around felt needs. And then you actually took in the data also of their people profiles of, do they actually have families or not? What's their marital status? Where do they work or what industry they work? And then you can ask the AI to start to think through, what does your sermon calendar actually look like? Does it make sense to actually have a relationship series? Does it make sense to have something about if everyone is starting to show signs of financial stress with our economy or sudden shifts and changes, or they say their housing costs have gone up, food costs have gone up, right? There's all these things that we are experiencing that are subtle, but can you find those things out and then find pattern recognition and then prioritize what are those felt needs? Because when Corey answers a survey and you answer a survey and I answer a survey with an open-ended field question, we might not say the same things, but we all might exhibit, there's financial stress going on in our families, right? We might say it in different ways. And in a Google Sheet or Excel spreadsheet or something, just looking through all those responses in sentences, it's hard to capture that sentiment that understands that, this is actually the issue at hand. And so just looking at unstructured data and creating order out of it, gives you so much more insights to be more precise, to be more responsive, to take the ability to increase the trust that you have with your audience and go deeper so that you can actually become more relevant to them.
That's insane, but it brings me to a question. Corey, I want to hit you with this question, and Kenny, I'd love to hear your insights on it. And there's this thing we, in church call the Holy Spirit, and we feel like that guides us. So how much should we use AI, Corey, in the church to come up with our answers? And then the Holy Spirit here, like it feels like there may be a tug of war on that too. I would tell people all the time, I would say, as Digital Great Commission Ministries, we would come in and look at their stream and how to make it better. And I'm like, sure, you want thousands of people to watch. Let's don't talk about the gospel. Let's just throw a bunch of weird stuff on and, be crazy on the platform. And then, you'll get a lot of clicks and a lot of views. Well, that's not what we're here for. We're here for church. So Corey, starting with you, and then Kenny, I'd love to hear your answer. You've got AI, it can analyze the data, it can help you with the data, but then you have the Holy Spirit too, which at the end of the day is your guide. So how do you balance that?
I know a lot of people go to if you're using AI, you're not using the Holy Spirit, but I don't think they are. Using one doesn't remove the other. You can use both, just like you use both for Google searching, just like you use both for any other tool that you might use in your church. With AI, kind of using the example I said of having a conversation back and forth with it, right? I don't have to remove the Holy Spirit from that. The AI gives me some suggestion, just like another person might, and I can use the Holy Spirit in inspiring me to get back and ask the question in a different way, or should I use this, or is this the right fit for my church, right? All of that is completely possible if you're using AI. Now, it can. I do think that AI could get into this place where you have the tendency to get to it does such a good job a lot of times that you might be like, oh, just copy, paste, and not think about it. I think that's where we can get ourselves in trouble, is maybe using it starting to get lazy with it. It could get, because it's so good, you could kind of go that direction, but you don't have to at all.
Yeah, from my side, I would say, look, it comes down to this one core question. And if once you answer this, then our conversations go in widely different ways. And that is, does your theology allow for divinity in the digital? Do you believe that God gave us technology, and AI specifically, as a gift for human flourishing? Or is it an obstacle that Satan has put in the way of us getting to know God in a much deeper way? I think there's some theological concepts that, pastors and church leaders need to think about, in the Imago Dei, is like, at the end of the day, are we here trying to retain what aspects of humanity are vibrant and life-serving, or are we here to replace it? In terms of the idea of wisdom and discernment, are we able to use AI while modeling intentional use of wisdom, humility, dependence on God? It's not an easy Staples button. That's the one thing, right? AI is not the Staples easy button. And are you able to see that the Holy Spirit is working with you in that wisdom and discernment of use of it as you make decisions on various issues at work with AI, right? And at the end of the day, I think the other side, you're making a very common argument or inquiry, but the other part tends to be forgotten, that what can we gain in terms of AI? Think of the idea of Sabbath. Are we trying to squander our time or save it? Because God wants us to prioritize rest and renewal and our relationships with God and with each other. And can the use of AI be used in a way that's informed by that idea of the Christian approach of responsible use of technology, so that we can actually have Sabbath and rest and be fully serving in our capacity in ministry? Productivity is probably the number one thing that people reach for. There's all these other benefits, I think. But can AI give you enough efficiency and productivity so that you can actually spend more time with your people one-on-one and actually focus on the humanity of ministry? I don't know any pastor that woke up today and say, I wish I just had 600 more emails. I wish I had more emails and meetings to go to, right? I wish I had more work to do, more tasks on my to-do list. I don't know any pastor. I think every pastor would love to remove all of that and then get out of the death by meeting cycle and actually be able to spend time with the people that need God and Jesus in their lives and be the shepherd that you actually were called to be at the very beginning of your vocation. And so I just want to call that out. Like, yes, there's all this stuff we have to protect. And I think again, you have to have conversations with your teams to talk about all that stuff. You need an AI policy. Every church needs an AI policy to set the guidelines and boundaries in the context of your own ministry expression. But at the same time, can we look at the upside of what AI is going to allow us to do? I think that's where you have to identify it, you have to protect it, and you have to go after it with abandon. We don't want to be the servant when the master comes back and say, sir, here's your talent back. Wait a minute, I just have to dig it up because I buried the talent and I didn't multiply it. Just hold 1 second. I got to dig it up. And so I think that's where AI is able to give us some flourishing in everything that we do in ministry if we use it in a responsible way.
Yeah, what I hear you saying is something that I say a lot about tech gear, and that is the guitar player on the stage is playing an instrument of worship.
Yeah.
They're playing an electric guitar. The sound guy or gal is on an instrument of worship. They're mixing on a sound console. It is an instrument of worship that you use to lead people or to guide people into worship. If the electric guitar ever becomes your God, if you're holding that up, brightly for everyone to look at and see, then you've gone off the rails. Then you've kind of moved in a direction where you're not listening to the Holy Spirit and you're not feeling what's going on in the room. You've held that electric, if your sound console becomes everything, it ends up being your God, right? Then it's no longer an instrument of worship. It's your God. I mean, you've gone off the rails a little bit. I'm looking at AI the same way. It's an instrument of worship that the Lord has given us to help us, process data quicker and all the benefits. But if we hold it up as our God, as our go-to, as the determiner of our truth, then we've gone off the rails, and it's no longer an instrument of worship. It is worship. We are worshiping it. And at that point, I think it's probably wrong. And there is a balance. And I think, like you said, having an AI policy and things of that nature would bring a lot of, help to this situation. But, Kenny, a lot of people don't know how to do that. So some of the insights that you've brought to the podcast today are pretty amazing. But if a church needs guidance on this subject, how do they get a hold of you? Where do they go? What's the first step for them to bring you into the situation to help them with this?
Absolutely. One of the things that I've learned living in different innovation fronts over the years is that there's too much happening for you to actually know it all yourself. If you come across any leader that says, look, I know definitively how to use AI and this is the way you should be using it, you should not look elsewhere. You need to run. We are better together as a community as we grow and learn together. The reason why Corey and I are friends is because very early on, we started to trade notes and learn from each other and encourage each other to push the boundaries and see where things work. We, as entrepreneurs, our job is to fail fast. We want to fail at so many different things of using AI for this, for that, for that. Let's fail at using it so that we can fail forward and find the use cases that it's really good for. And so the number one call to action, I would say, is join a community. So we have a Facebook group called AI for Church Leaders and Pastors. AI for Church Leaders and Pastors is the name of the Facebook group. We're on our way to 6,000 people. We're just trading notes. I think Corey could testify to it's a pretty active group. Right, Corey? And you've learned something. I've learned something from that almost every week.
I'm learning from all kinds of people. What's working, what's not. I picked up a lot of great tips.
Yeah, and so you don't need to be an expert. You can be a very basic beginner. But even if you've been using AI tools for the last several years, I think there's something for everyone there, and it's a place where again you can see what other people are doing with AI. I think that's just one of the things that is super, super important whenever you're in a new innovation front, because we can imagine how we might use AI, but I'm telling you, no matter what you imagine and how creative you are, there's probably 100 other different use cases that you didn't think of that might be even more exciting, more effective, more impactful. And that's why you need to be in a community. So that would be my number one call to action. Inside the group, you'll see there's an ebook that I wrote. It's Unlock the Power of AI. It's like the ultimate starter guide for pastors. That's free inside the group. And we've got a training platform. We've got monthly workshops, et cetera. But get inside the community, say hello, and just watch what other people are doing. That's the first step.
So let me say that again. The Facebook group is AI for church leaders and pastors.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's the name of the group.
Yeah. So if you're listening, it's AI for church leaders and pastors. Also, it sounds like you manage churchtechtoday.com. Is that another good resource for people to go to?
Yeah. So we're, obviously AI is increasingly being covered there. We actually have a new category called AI for churches that you can actually nerd out on different tutorials and articles and things like that. I recently posted some stuff about theological reflections. We are publishing, like I mentioned earlier, a landmark study, the state of AI in the church. And so we're going to have a webinar. We're going to release that study on churchtechtoday.com. That's in association with Exponential, which is another big faith community. And so you're going to start to see a lot of stuff at Church Tech Today on the AI front as well.
This discussion has been amazing. You've brought a lot of insights, Kenny and Corey, to the podcast today. I have a feeling a part 2 may be coming at some point. We may have to do this again, maybe in 3 or 4 or 5 months, now that I have my brain a little bit more wrapped around what all AI can do. But thank you, Kenny, for coming on. Thank you, Corey, for coming on the podcast today.
It's been a pleasure. And thank you for the work you're doing with this podcast and all the other things that you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a good time.
Well, that wraps things up for today's episode. I can't wait to talk to you on the next Tech Arts podcast. Until then, I'm David Leuschner, signing off by wishing you a great day and praying God blesses every moment of your week. See you soon.
You have been listening to the Tech Arts Podcast, presented by Digital Great Commission Ministries. DGCM is a 501c3 nonprofit that was started to help churches with all things technical. Whether you need help building a team, finding the right gear, or just a better understanding of the church tech world, DGCM is here for you. Find out more about our free on-site visits, reports, and consulting by going to audiovideolighting.com. Digital Great Commission Ministries will help you run your church service like a pro. Find out more at audiovideolighting.com.
This episode of the Tech Arts Podcast is brought to you by AI for churchleaders.com. Harness the power of AI for ministry at aiforchurchleaders.com. With Sermon Shot's church-specific AI, sermon highlights don't go unnoticed. Easily transform your sermons into 10-plus bite-sized clips ready for social media. It doesn't stop there. Refine each clip by adding or removing video sections, give them your unique touch with colors, fonts, design edits, and create the goosebump moment with background music. Elevate your message and reach hearts locally and globally. Start today by going to sermonshots.com. From sold-out stadiums to intimate live performance venues, sound engineers agree on one thing for the best digital mixing consoles for live sound. The only name that matters is Digico. As the recognized worldwide standard for live audio mixing, Digico consoles are renowned for their industry-leading sound quality and ease of use. Whether your application is in a church, broadcast, theater, corporate, sports, or installed sound, Digico offers compact and affordable products. From the S21 all the way up to the pioneering power of the Quantum 852, Digico delivers the workflow, the feature set, and the absolute reliability that the world's biggest tours and programs have come to rely upon. If you're looking for a sound console, look to Digico for your answer. For more information on Digico, go to digico.biz. That's digico.biz. From front of house to center stage, for over 25 years, Earthworks microphones have sculpted the sounds of your favorite concerts, venues, and performances. Earthworks Audio is a sponsor of the Tech Arts Podcast. We are so happy to have them on board and excited to promote the new Earthworks SR117 vocal mic and capsules. To find out more about Earthworks Audio or to get your hands on this mic, go to earthworksaudio.com. That's earthworksaudio.com. Capturing emotion with sound. earthworksaudio.com.